talk about your topic, mate, and
Yeah, well, it's obviously really popular to talk about at the moment. But yeah, Glazers are trending for a while now, hasn't it? But realistically, yesterday just brought on a discussion that needs to be had yet again. It was a culmination of the last 17 years on and off the pitch, and it should have been no surprise to anyone, frankly. And I see quite a lot of pundits come out and say you can't blame this on the Glazers. They've spent this much money, and it's just a complete lack of education. And it's very, very dangerous to have that put out there in the media. If you go back to 2005 and you look at the status of Manchester United at the time, and you look at the fact that they were challenging for Premier Leagues, they had one of the best stadiums in the country. They had one of the best training facilities in the country. They were looking at expanding the stadium. There was plenty of things that were looking good for Manchester United, and their debt was zero at that point. No debt on the club whatsoever. You go 6 years prior to that, we'd obviously won the treble while Manchester City were in League 2 or League 1, Division 2 back then. You fast forward 17 years and Man City are probably looking like winning their third league title in a row, and Manchester United are looking like struggling at the beginning of another process. I know we used that word before. So what's really gone wrong? Why are people so unhappy with the Glazers? Why is it important in what's going on, basically? And I'll use a couple of analogies. Like if you own like a small corner shop, you could hire the best salespeople in the world. Let's call them your signings. You could go sign your Ronaldos, your Messis, whoever. If you don't stock that shop properly, if you don't get stock in that people want to buy, if you don't open at the right hours where people come, if you're not in the right location, none of that, like all of that has an effect. You can put the best salesman or the best salesperson in the world, and they won't be able to sell and make a profit on the items that you have. And unfortunately, since 2005, the wrong people have been in charge. If you look at just the debt, just the interest on the debt and dividends alone, it's £1 billion. £1 billion, that's 850 million, which is the interest on the debt, and 150 million pounds that has been taken out in dividends since 2005. Now, if that doesn't scream at you, then you don't really understand business, economics, or football, because that's £1 billion that could have been used to get us closer to Manchester City. Now, I'm not saying that there hasn't been a mismanagement of funds. We all know that. There was a clear underinvestment from 2005 to 2013 because we were relying on the genius of Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill. We managed to win league titles in that time. We managed to win a Champions League in that time, domestic cups. So they were covering they were papering over the cracks. Then you fast forward past 2013 and you went from an underinvestment to a real waste of money, mismanagement of money, signing world beaters, supposed world beaters for astronomical fees, handing out astronomical wages to the likes of Alexis Sanchez, for example, not being able to move on players, selling 7 players for £10 million or more in the past 9 years is not good enough. We have a habit of bringing in players for a lot of money and not being able to move them on because they're on ridiculous contracts, which nobody wants to pay. And people think this whole Glazers out thing is a result of our results being poor. And I'd just like to reiterate that I was in a protest in 2010 when the green and gold movement started, and we just won back-to-back leagues, and we won the Champions League a couple of years before. This has zero to do with results. It may have an end effect on the pitch, but it's nothing to do with the results on the football pitch. That is not why I'm Glazers out. I'm not Glazers out because we didn't have an effective summer transfer window and we left deals too late and Murta and Arnold were doing this abroad and we should have got De Jong and we shouldn't. That's nothing to do with the systemic problem at the football club. And just to finish off, I'll use the last analogy, right? So I've said this to people before, and it's a bit of a strange one, so bear with me. But if someone is diagnosed with cancer in 2005, right, and it doesn't really show signs of anything, it doesn't show any symptoms, and they live a happy life for the next 8 years. And then come 2013, it starts to show symptoms. You start to get poorly, things starts to go downhill. And then in 2022, you can call it the demise of the football club, you can call it whatever, but obviously end of the situation. So was the demise of the football club, was the cancer, was that terminal in 2013 when you started getting the symptoms and showing the symptoms of failure? Or was it terminal in 2005 at your time of diagnosis when the actual onset of the problem occurred? And that's the issue. Too many people are looking at the fact that Sir Alex Ferguson was a genius, the greatest manager to ever have existed inside or outside of Manchester United Football Club. And he covered over the cracks for a long time. And unfortunately, people just don't realise how big this problem is. And a body rots from the head, and the Glazers is a big problem. And I don't care what the results happen this season, how we get behind Ten Hag, like whatever happens, Glazers out needs to continue. It's not a fad. It is a big problem at the football club. And it should be no shock that yesterday happened, because we have been going in completely the wrong direction, in my opinion, for the past 17 years.
Yeah, I mean, James, I can't disagree. I mean, I could listen to you for the next 15 minutes talk about it, and